Hey guys, it's Franku, and today I just want to talk about some Nintendo Switch 2 issues. Some early adopter problems, potentially, you could say. Overall, I have been enjoying the Switch 2, as some of you can probably see from my videos, but I'm not going to sit here and just say that the Switch 2 is perfect. So I've got a few things here to talk about, in the order of, I guess, most severe to least severe. So the first issue with the Switch 2 is the battery life. A lot of people online think that the battery life is pretty bad. Nintendo gave an estimate of 2.5 hours to 6 hours of battery life for the Nintendo Switch 2. But a lot of people online were just saying, oh yeah, I can barely even get 2 hours of battery life. A lot of people were just complaining about the battery life in general. And while at that point I wasn't having any issues with the Switch 2 battery, I was getting, maybe playing Mario Kart, I could play for 2.5 hours and be around like 30 to 40%. And then at that point I just put it in the dock. But Nintendo themselves actually put out a warning statement about the Nintendo Switch 2 battery. Apparently, out of the factories, either all or some Switch 2 units, the battery percentage isn't displaying properly. This is according to them. I'm going to put their warning and their steps on the screen of how to actually quote-unquote fix your Switch 2 battery. But since Nintendo implored everyone to do this, I did do it with my Switch 2. And what were the results? My Switch 2 jumped up from about 83% to about 94%. So while not a massive increase, it still is a pretty noticeable difference. Other people online said that they weren't getting that big of a difference in percentage, but from what I can tell, the majority seem to be getting similar results to what I'm getting, at least maybe an extra 10 to 14% battery life. But if you do own a Switch 2, regardless, I would recommend that you do this. It's still, in the end, I don't think it's gonna do anything revolutionary. I think if you want a Switch 2 with a better battery life, then you're probably better off waiting on a revision down the road that probably includes a better battery life. Okay, the next topic is actually an interesting one, and one that there is still some debate around. So recently, Digital Foundry released a 2-hour-long technical analysis on the Nintendo Switch 2 console. So while I'm not gonna sit here and summarize the video, an important part to note, and something that other people are concerned / disappointed in, is the quality of the Nintendo Switch 2 screen. Not necessarily that it's not at 120 FPS, because it is. But the main issue that Digital Foundry found in their analysis was that the Switch 2 screen actually has a ghosting effect. I guess it's something that's easier to test in Welcome Tour, but admittedly this was something that I didn't even really notice about the screen, since I have just the regular Switch, not even the OLED. The 120 FPS, in my opinion, is like, it's an upgrade no matter what, and it does look nice. And this ghosting / smoothing effect, I feel like I can't even notice that in the naked eye. It's only really something that you can notice when you slow footage down, or something in Welcome Tour where there's a minigame where you can do an FPS test and you have to guess the correct amount of frames per second. But regardless, this still is an issue on the Switch 2. How do you guys feel about the screen on the Switch 2? For me, it's still an upgrade, but that ghosting does look pretty nasty. So the final main issue / early adopter issue for the Switch 2 is the potential of Joy-Con 2 drift. Now myself, I don't have Joy-Con 2 drift, I can confirm, but there have been many others that have already disassembled the Joy-Con 2 controllers, and while the design is updated, quote-unquote updated, it's more or less still the same type of mechanism. So the Switch 2 Joy-Cons in the future are gonna be prone to failing, which is the main concern that a lot of people have, myself included. This may not be correct, but I think they've already offered like free fixing services for the Joy-Con 2 specifically. But on the Nintendo Switch 1, Joy-Con drift was a huge problem, man. Hell, so much so that there's even been court cases about it, and those have been done, bro. So I have about 3 pairs of Joy-Cons. The gray ones that came with the system, and the yellow arms Joy-Cons. I also do have a pair of Etikons, but don't let the big N find out about that one. But essentially, my gray and yellow Joy-Cons, I had to send them both to Nintendo once for free repairs. And since then, I actually haven't gotten drift on them, but I'm still skeptical. I'm 99% sure that my Joy-Cons will eventually get drift again. I think it's just an inevitability with these controllers, unfortunately. Maybe the Joy-Con 2s are a little bit different, I can only hope. On the Switch 2, I've mainly just been using my Joy-Con 2s in handheld mode, and I've just been using a regular Pro Controller, not the Switch 2 Pro Controller, but just a regular Pro Controller that I have from Switch 1, just to play games on the TV. But yeah, Joy-Con 2 drift is a very real and looming threat that hangs over the Switch 2. So that one is just to be determined. We're gonna have to wait and see how that one pans out. But alright, for now, those are just a couple of general Switch early adopter issues that I wanted to touch on here. Let me know what your guys' experiences are on the Switch 2 so far, in the early days of the system. For example, what do you guys think of the battery life of the Switch? Are you guys disappointed on the quality of the screen? And are you guys just as scared as me of Joy-Con drift 2 being a very real possibility? But with all that being said, take care of yourselves, and as usual, please have yourselves a damn good one. And welcome back to the Digital Shack. Today, we're going to be reviewing the Krispy Kreme Pac-Man Donut collaboration. I did indeed try each 3 flavors. This includes Team Ghost, the Strawberry Power Berry, and Pac-Man Party. Now, while each of these do taste quite delectable, I'm not quite a fan of the iteration of Pac-Man they put on this donut. In my humble opinion, the design that they should have gone with was Pac-Man from Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures. Then in my eyes, this collaboration would be a true 10 out of 10, and the pack would be officially back.